Hey everybody, you're listening to What Are You Doing in Denmark, the podcast that helps you make Denmark make sense. My name is Derek Hartman, and I am joined with three wonderful friends to talk to you about the news in Denmark going on right now. We have Conrad Molden.
Hello.
Matthias Bach.
Hello.
And Brooke Black.
Douse.
Brooke, you've got some really good and fun news for us.
Yeah, I have. Should we start with fun stuff?
Yeah, let's start with fun stuff.
I'm always like, what's in the news today? So I'm very excited because a band I have become a big fan of here, a Danish band called Blæst. They just announced a new singer this morning. They started in 2019. They had this kind of meteoric rise. They played the Rising stage at Roskilde. It's a 4-piece with a female singer. It was like a record-breaking crowd for the Rising stage. I think 20,000 people. They also have won several P3, the radio awards, the listener hit awards, 2 for their single Juice, and I Love You So Much is the other one, Elsker dig så meget. So they had this huge tour planned. It was sold out, and they canceled it because of stress. I've worked in the music industry for a long, long time, so I find it really interesting to kind of see how musicians are doing in this current age where things are more expensive. And like, you know, when you see a band have this meteoric rise, they not only have to be a band, but they have to do their social media. They have to do all these extra things. And these guys grew so fast and became so popular that they kind of went down with stress. It's been so hard to see them because they canceled these shows. And I had first heard them on P3 driving around Jylland when I first moved to Denmark. I had this kind of kindred, like, I was like, wow, I got into a band on the radio and I feel like I'm living here. And I was like driving by cornfields every day on my commute. So I felt this kinship with them, really wanted to see them. And then they canceled all these dates. And so I have a personal kind of relationship with them. And then they played the Orange stage, the famous kind of opening stage at Roskilde in 2023. I believe. Packed crowd. And then in October of this past year, after more and more touring, the singer, Fernanda, announced that she was going to quit the band. And it was a really big shock because these guys have been so popular, hugely beloved. I saw their final concert with her February 1st at Kobe Helen. It was amazing, really incredible. It was my first and last show ever seeing them in this lineup. But they just announced the new singer because they were wondering, are we going to continue as a band?
And it's all on good terms, right? Like, did she stepped away for mental health?
I believe it was for mental health reasons, which I think is really strong to be able to do that in this day and age before you break down. Yeah. And DR kind of wrote about it. So they've now announced on their socials today that the new singer is Sarah Sophie Malmros. She's been doing her own projects as Sasso, and they'll have a new single. It'll be a little bit like what we've heard from them, but not sure how different of a sound it'll be. Then they're going to be doing a bunch of big festivals this summer. I'm excited to see what happens with that, with her, with the new lineup. They also talk in this DR article about how they're regularly checking in on their mental health, going to therapy together and stuff. And I think that's really cool. And they're like, we can't promise that this won't happen again. I think it's really interesting that like the young people touring are like checking in with their mental health and like owning like, hey, this is my boundary. Same with like what you hear about kind of work-life balance with younger generations. It's like, this is my life. Yeah. Work is not my life. So I'm really excited to see what happens there. And if you haven't heard Blæst, you should check out their music. I think even if it's a great way to learn Danish if you're learning, but also just really catchy tunes. And my whole family, like my daughters love it. We all love it. So go Blæst.
I think that's really great to know when you've had enough, know when you need a break, and know when you need to just stop. And especially if they can do that without tearing apart the band, stopping the music completely.
It's so cool about that these artists are starting to have these boundaries set up. Like also Chaperone from the US is doing it a lot, you know, saying that like people need to stop idolizing me because I also have a life.
I don't want to take a picture with you and that's okay.
Exactly.
You know?
I really like that. I think it's so cool.
You've heard a lot of people say this, but never actually that directly to literally just take the time off. And I think it's great. I think that is something that Danish society really has just gotten rid of that stigma of being able to say like, I'm stressed, I'm burnout, I'm not doing it.
It's true. You can like go on mental health stress leave without it being a stigma. I'm sure not every company is great at like the onboarding, offboarding, and then reintroducing. But I do really appreciate, and it's a good point, that like you can do that and it's more of a common accepted thing than it would never happen in the US. It would be like, oh, like looks like you can't handle this job. You need to like go find another job.
It even makes headlines that Chapel Roan, for example, has said, no, I'm not taking pictures with you. I don't owe you anything. I make my music. Go listen to it. Come to my show. I sold you a ticket. I don't owe you anything else. That's valid.
I think more and more people are doing that and being out like forthcoming about it. I think I just saw Scarlett Johansson in the news. Of course, it's like she's been very vocal about the whole like AI, like, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, way to go for musicians setting their boundaries. And I mean, I really appreciate that if you believe in this art, this thing you're making, like you're dedicated, but also know when you can take that time to be able to like go away and then come back and be refreshed to be able to make more music. And
it is very courageous considering the pressure as well. If your band is rising and maybe you're living your dream finally, you're getting to the peak, the goal that you want to achieve, and then suddenly you're like, I don't know if I want to go on because this will burn me out.
Yeah, they've been very vocal about it, even in the first 2 years, because that's how fast it was. So it was like, we're so much expectation, so much pressure is put on us to do all these things. And so I really appreciate that they were saying that out loud, because it's kind of this like silent suffering that a lot of my musician friends have to do. I think it's really frustrating when you make great music, but you don't do all these other things, and you see other people just hear about it before you because of this whole other section of promotion and things like that.
With that insider knowledge, Brooke, I'm curious. I've heard that often, like when they have success on their first album, they almost immediately get thrown back in the studio while also
the sophomore slump.
The
sophomore slump, the Strokes. I think a lot of musicians, they just say you have to get through your second album. Like, hopefully it's great, but like you just have to get through it because maybe you've been working on your debut for years. This is like something, or maybe it's just
all
like
your best material.
Yeah, or maybe you just had this moment like of creativity and just and then you have to go in and like make it happen. And I don't envy anybody who has to be forced to do that or do a TikTok dance, or like some of the artists I worked with. I've seen them have to grow into this like where they make it cool, but for the longest time they didn't want to do that really big brand partnership that would sustain their career because like they're curating an image. Or
did you feel that way, Conrad? Like with your first tour that really went well, did you have to kind of go back in and start writing your second tour as you were doing your first? Or
yeah, it was a bit crazy. So I had years to create material for the first show, and then the first show was a success. And as the tour was coming to an end, we got the opportunity to sell the show to TV2. And then my manager at the time, he rang me and he said, "We got the deal, and the show will be recorded and go on TV2." And I was like, "Wow, that's great news." He was like, "Yeah, and we also sold them the second one as well." Because they did a deal with a package. So he was like, "We have to deliver that." This was in October. And he was like, "We have to deliver the second show by Christmas."
What?
Yeah. So I had the first show ready and ready to go. And then I had less than 3 months to create the second one. The proof is in the name, because the first show is called Danglish and the second one is just called Danglish 2. Because we didn't have time. We were like, "What do you want to call it?" He was like, "We need a name today." I was like, the other second Danglish?
Gotta just be simple, straightforward these days. It works.
I don't know what the show's gonna be about, so let's just call it that. Then did a crazy amount of research and writing, and then actually performed it. Did a test show in Odense, did a test show in Aarhus, and then the third time I ever performed it was when we filmed it in Copenhagen.
Wow.
And then did the tour, so then did 35 plus shows of that one, having already filmed it. And the show got better, and a lot of new material came in and things left. But all of that kind of sucked because by the end I was really proud of it, but I already had the recording. So when I rewatched the recording, I'm like, there's a clearly better punchline, or there's a better joke there, or blah, 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 blah. So that was a bit of pressure.
Not to mention you had to write it, I guess, from October to December, which is, for a comedian, especially in Denmark, that's julefrokost season. That's probably your busiest time of year.
And finishing the first tour.
And finishing the first tour.
Yeah, that still hadn't ended.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so I guess I won't even bother asking about your stress level at that time. I can.
It was
assume.
kind of crazy. But if you watch the second show, you can see that like the difficult second album is a lot weaker. There are some really big bits in it, but it's much more storytelling, because I just sat down and was like, what haven't I talked about yet?
Wow.
I look forward to Danglish 3. That'll be in May, right?
That will come. It's coming in 2 days, actually.
Coming tomorrow, yeah.
Tomorrow morning.
Yeah, we
9
just sold
a.m.
it.
What show is coming? 2 or 3?
These are all ages ago. Now I'm on, I think, 5th or 6th. I did one called Hugalicious.
Oh, yes, of course.
And then I did one called AOO. And then I did a tour in Europe called UK Man in the EU. And then the next one we called King Carrot. And then I was thinking about calling the next one Danglish 3 for fun. I don't know. Something with that.
I'm thinking of like how Danish numbers work. You should just name it like Danglish 52.
Danglish 52, yeah, exactly.
And the next tour, we should also say, is
coming in 15 minutes, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
But is tickets are on sale now?
Tickets on sale now in
So
November.
We'll put that link in the description, and also our live show for the podcast.
Yay!
So if you guys are listening, we're just plugging everything right in the middle of this segment.
Plug it away.
But May 6th, you can catch us at Comedy Zoo. Tickets are on sale for our live show on May 6th. So
What's going to happen? Crazy stuff. Someone's going to be climbing from the rafters.
it's going to be very different than just listening at home. So we have a lot planned. And
100th episode.
100th episode. So very excited to share that with you guys.
And Derek, do you have some news for us
Do
today?
you have some uplifting news?
I do. Well, something is uplifted by this news. So I will say that the Danish parliament is very worried about the uplifting level of groundwater. So,
Wow.
Segue.
that was so smooth.
Wow.
So smooth.
Oh no, it's like the high benches, the art.
Exactly. If you don't know, there are around at least Copenhagen, but I think cities all around Denmark, there are these very high benches that show you what sea level may float benches
by 2100,
by
right?
2100, yeah. But of course, very proactively, the Folketing is taking climate measures and adaptations. And one thing they're looking at is the impact of ground level water. Of course, that affects people's basements, the foundations of their homes, but as well wastewater and highways and infrastructure and rail lines, all kinds of things. So with groundwater getting higher, they've decided to put about 60 billion Danish kroner into developing plans to alleviate this. The main thing they're going to do is distribute the money to municipalities, and they'll be able to pinpoint exactly where the weak points are and where groundwater is going to be an issue, and then figure out plans to put the money where it's really needed.
Just lift up Sjælland and put it on top of Foon. Just elevate.
A lot of buildings that are considered at risk will be getting the resources they need to prevent this.
All those fancy people on the water.
That's going to be all of us soon, so they won't be so exclusive to be on the water. We'll all be water.
How is the Netherlands doing it? They're like one country lower, right? Like I think Denmark's the third lowest.
It depends what way you're holding the map.
Maldives, Netherlands, and us.
Yeah, I know that they built big dikes out in the sea, and then they pump the water out.
Yeah,
I think there's a person that sticks their finger in the hole where the water's coming out.
Exactly.
That's the scientific. That's
every few days they swap. Swap arm.
Is that something that like Dutch people hate to hear? It's like I'm probably offending people. I'm sorry.
That and wooden shoes, I think, are the only things I know.
And tulips.
And tulips. Yeah, and windmills, waffles.
Oh,
bikes.
when my dad met my Danish husband, my dad's old school, and he said, "I've been doing some research on you," and he had the D encyclopedia out, and he was like asking about tulips and the red light district, and I'm like, wrong country, Dad, but thank you for trying.
Is that just because people mistake Dutch and Danish because they both begin with D? And then,
but they also and Swiss and Swedish,
Switzerland, right? Or,
Swiss and Swedish,
and also a lot of similarity on the language. I think
that's true.
But I'm just sitting thinking like I don't know what I would be happier about, like Denmark sinking or being bumped by Trump.
You'd be happy about it?
Yeah, but like, which one would I be happier with?
If you have to go,
if I would really have to go, what would be better?
Would you rather drown?
Probably
or
sinking.
Explode?
Yeah.
Yeah. At least you would have a longer goodbye.
Yeah.
You can just climb to the top of Rundtårn and stand there. And watch.
Oh yeah. Bye everyone.
Yeah. I'm going to move to the top of the lighthouse in Aarhus.
Wait, which is the tallest building?
It's called the Lighthouse, and it's in Aarhus.
The lighthouse.
Oh,
How have I not
Yeah.
been there?
Is that the tallest?
It's the tallest building,
Because the
141
elevation-
meters.
Okay.
Wait, is that the one they moved once?
No, that's in
the
Skane.
Okay.
That's the lighthouse that's falling into the
Oh,
It's
no.
just an
ocean.
apartment block with a
Sky
restaurant.
Mountain is not part of this conversation. It is the sixth highest.
Oh, it's lower than that. It's
Seventh.
It's like 11
No,
or 12,
it's
I
seven.
promise you.
We've talked about this,
We
but
have
we've been to the most boring, highest point not together, but Banahoy, Eyre, Banahoy.
That's the second, though.
Oh, yeah, 'cause that
The
was,
first is that hill
Mødehøj.
where the farmer lives. And there's no plaque, and I need a plaque to
You can
say
tell
that
the
this is
Brookers
the
lived in
highest.
Jylland, where the farmer lives.
Where the
you know that
farmer
one
lives.
guy? You know where Jens is?
I actually had there was like a manure smell in Copenhagen the other day, and it brought me back to like living in Jylland when like
amazing.
the farmers would like type on the Facebook group, "Sorry, the gula is coming out, so it's gonna be stinky for a little bit." It's
Wait,
like,
the
oh,
Jylland
yes.
Facebook group?
Yeah, it was like who lives in the area, so it's like.
okay.
Okay.
No, it's Jylland.
Just all of you in one Facebook
No,
group.
just
being
like our-
what is
just
that
our little
smell?
area. But
100 members.
that group was blowing up yesterday
Yeah.
because of the weird SpaceX stuff in the sky. Though, speaking of other news,
Oh,
the
yeah.
spiral thing in the sky. You didn't hear about that?
Something exploded?
SpaceX, like they're like when I'm not quite sure, but it leaves like a spiral in the sky that everyone was taking pictures of and sharing in the groups. You guys didn't hear about it?
Yeah.
This happened. Was that?
I
Last
thought it was
night,
yesterday.
Was it last
yeah,
night?
it was yesterday.
Because I think there was one maybe 2 weeks ago as well.
Yeah, space trash, like dust left over from SpaceX, but it looks like a charming star. What are those fidget spinner? It looked like a fidget spinner.
Yeah.
SpaceX fidget spinners.
Yeah.
In the sky over Jylland.
Okay, so Derek,
Denmark is going to help you to climate-proof your basement.
it's pretty wild. My husband's more lived on Fanø Island on the west coast, and like there were so many times when the water had covered the track to get to the ferry, so like we couldn't leave. So I mean that's already happening. So it's got to be super fast. That maybe faster than they anticipated.
I know they're building Lutherholmen, right? This big
Yes.
island north of Nordhavn in an attempt to create a sea barrier and new housing.
That's been a political
Very controversial.
controversial as well
Yeah.
because of the wildlife.
Yeah,
impact.
there's a lot
Oh,
of
shoot.
birds and what out
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Maybe that's how they're gonna climate compensate for the for the bad groundwater. Or,
Wiping out a rare species?
yeah, exactly. That's like their type of climate changing.
Everybody loses.
Yeah.
Come on, they help people with their basements so they can do something else.
Get these birds out of here. A tough future, but we'll at least have some good music and mental health too.
Talking of uplifting things,
Please.
I had a very, what I felt like was a very Danish integration experience. So on
I
today,
love these.
I know,
You did it.
exciting. No passport just yet. But
A good experience. Wow.
Sunday, like 2 days ago, was my son's 6th birthday, and he
So
goes
you
to
okay?
Børnehave. Thank you. And he wanted to have the Børnehave, his group Storgrupper in his class, because he will go to school soon, to come over to our apartment. And I was very resistant initially because I like my apartment to have wallpaper still on the walls and the carpets not to be covered in wee. So I was very resistant. But my wife said, no, it's a big part of, his integration experience. So we agreed to do it. And it was actually extremely hoogly and was really, really fun. And I was amazed at how well behaved the children were. So I feel like pedagogues here in Denmark are very... not everybody, of course, it's a huge generalization, but the pedagogues there are really, really fun-loving and good at engaging with the kids, but also really good at controlling them.
So they bring them to your home, right?
They brought all
It's like for
12
like a
of them in.
midday cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Exactly.
pedagogue. So and
And the pedagogue.
the school staff. as
So they
well.
don't just like send them your way and like...
Yeah, they're at the door, just stump out their cigarette. Kids are here. See you at the Børnehave.
They're your problem now.
Yeah, I don't know why they're English, but yeah. So, the kids came over, and then my wife made lots of pancakes for them, and then they had pancakes with fruits and whatnot, and drinks with Pokemon theme. And then we played Lust til at Hop, if you've heard MGB's
Oh, yeah.
massive rave hit.
Yep.
So we played...
That sounds like quite the kid party.
It was really fun. They leapt around, played with lots of balloons, and then my daughter was also home. She's 2 years younger, and she wanted to stay and experience it. So they split up, and they went into his room and her room and played a lot. And then I was scared at that point because I was like, okay, the rest of my day is going to be tidying because this is absolutely crazy. And then the pedagogue came over and was like, don't worry, I asked them to tidy up. And because there was 12 of them, I mean, instantly, he just said, root it up, and then they all like went into robot mode.
Isn't it amazing how they do it, but not for you?
Yeah.
Like, it's like,
Yeah.
like, go to sleep. No. It's like, and at Børnehave, go to sleep. Yes.
Yeah, put on your
Just-
fluid rack, and then they put it on perfectly like a
Yeah,
little
they're
robot.
like tying shoes and like doing all kinds of things. I didn't. It's my fault too. Where like my 5-year-old now, she'll be like, I can't put my shoes on, and I'm like, okay, and I need to just be like them.
You're on a time limit. That's the problem. Because as a parent, you're like, please put your shoes on. They're like, I don't know how to. And
There's
you're
just
like, well,
a
we're gonna miss
list.
the bus.
There's a list of like 12 different things, and you have to decide if it's an argue point or like let's get out the door.
But that was a really a wonderful experience. It was also really nice to snack a dance with the children because
It's
so
good
often
practice.
It's really good practice. But I try to talk to them, and their faces are like, "What?" Like all they do. I'm like, "Would you have me a cacao?" And they're like, "Well."
Oh my god.
I feel like it's different with the kids. I mean, because I have 2 girls and they bring their friends over, and some of them are like really like, "What do you do?" Like just like I don't know, like mass, like calling my husband to like come over and translate. And then the other ones are like, "Yeah, cool, like okay, pasta." Like, it's like I feel a lot more comfortable with those friends.
I feel like I'd be okay with that because I speak basically on a child's level, so that could be fine.
But I've been surpassed by my son years ago.
Oh yeah, but I mean,
When he was 3, his Danish was better than mine.
yeah, we could talk about like the furniture I have in my apartment. I could tell them what each room is. I could tell them who I live here with. It could
Mine is
be-
just food items, like
Food
will you have me
items?
snacks,
Yeah.
like Jeg har en pølse, jeg har en, like, I don't know, rhubarb, I don't know. I'm not giving them rye bread for a snack, but, whatever I can throw at them, like pelting juice boxes. Just like, but we had juice. So that's good Conrad news. That's,
Did you blend any English traditions in or British traditions?
Well, I
into
really
what you
wanted
did?
to put, you
Or
have the
Hungarian.
little-
I know you're.
Yeah, I wanted a bit more of that. So we have the little Dannebrog flag that you put in everything, and I have ones that have the Union Jack on them, and
okay.
I wanted to put those in the pancakes. That was not allowed.
By the pedagogue or by your son? Or?
No, the makeup for the pancakes.
The maker of the pancakes.
So there were little bits like that. But no, it was really, really fun. It made me think a lot about the future that I now better understand studenterkursel, that everybody comes to people's houses.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was, coming from the UK, it's just an opportunity to trash someone's house and steal
Right.
all their stuff. But here in Denmark, it's actually more about like come in and
Yeah.
I'm sure things get broken and there's a bit of chaos, but generally I think people are really well behaved.
That's interesting about the studenterkurs, like, which, if you don't know, this is a tradition that I'm probably not going to explain as well as Mathias could, but where you go to your friends' houses upon graduation, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. But I would say it's very messy. I think that's going to be your next big step for
Awakening.
your son, because that was absolutely terrible when we did that. Like, everyone ruined everything. Like, everyone got so smashed drunk.
Oh, yeah.
So everything.
I thought
like,
you were talking about the kids still. But,
no.
The
But also
older
that, like,
kids.
I was wondering, like, do you feel more judged by talking Danish to the children or trying to talk Danish to Danish-speaking adults? Like, who did you feel most judged
Like their
from?
parents, yeah.
My experience with speaking Danish with Danes is that generally they're very kind and understanding. I think the brutalism with the children is really hard, because although I expect my son's one of his closest friends is just in denial that he can ever possibly understand anything I say. He's 7 and he deeply dislikes me on like a fundamental level. So anything that I say, he'll just turn to my son and be like, "Your dad's Danish is rubbish. What is he saying?"
That's what
Which
one of
breaks my heart.
kids' friends is like. She's our neighbor and I love her so much, but I'm like, who is this lady? Like, I don't want to deal with her. Like, I just want the man of the house, the dansk man.
Wow.
But I will say, in terms of integration, I feel like I have new Danish neighbors. They live 2 doors down, and there's an understanding where, like, we've already just taken their kids, like, while they're painting and stuff. Like, they're just like they just kind of drop them off and they're like, "Is this okay?" We're like, yeah. Like, it's kind of this casual thing of like, you know, it's a village. And I feel like other internationals there's a lot of like, "Is this okay? Are you sure?" Like, we want to be polite. We want to make sure it's okay. And so with Danes, it's like, I don't know. Like, I'm going to Netto. Like, my 4-year-old's at home. Do you, like, you know, they might just come over to you. You kind of have to have that, like, everyone's welcome. Come in and have some coffee, and that's really cozy when you experience it.
I think it's so cute that people often drop their kids off and they're like, "Here's my phone number and here's a list of rah rah rah," and like, he can't eat avocados on a Wednesday.
I don't
and
get any of that.
And then the kids come in and you never see them again. They go into the other kid's room, they smash everything, they break all the Lego, attack all the books, and rip the bed apart. And then the parents come back and then you're like, "How was it?" It's like, I didn't see them.
Yeah.
I have no idea what they were doing. They could be doing crack in there.
That
I
means
have
it's
no
a good
idea.
play date when you don't hear them or see them. They're just like busy doing something else, and you're like, "Doo doo doo." I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, you just occasionally you hear like a weird noise, like something breaking or an but yeah, you're like, it's fine. It's a rental.
But it's easier when the pedagogue are there, because I've had to host lie group that we had 5-6 kids that are not friends with my daughter at our house, and that was very hard to manage because they're all different interests. Like, one of them ate too much fruit and like their stomach hurt and they wanted to go home, and like one of them just wanted to like play video games, and like we're not at that level in my house yet where we even have video games. Like, so that was really stressful, and I was trying to corral everyone and just applying snacks, you know, just like throwing things at them. But there was like, that felt a little more, I don't know if you will host one of those, but that's a little harder, I think, unless you go out somewhere.
Yeah.
Because
What
if it's
are
at your
they?
house. What?
What are they? I do not know.
A lie group is a play group where so they divide you up with people you're not friends with, like, so you purposely hang out with other kids in the class, and then
cool.
like a parent switches like who hosts them. So that's where
Is that a deal that you have, that you need to go home to each other's?
Yeah,
houses?
but I think
Wow,
it's something we decided at the top of the year. It might be different class per class, but like that's something the parents decided, like how we do birthdays, how we do play group, how we do like quarterly birthday celebrations, things like that.
Okay.
I miss a lot of that because like I introduce myself in Danish, and then the whole thing I'm like hearing bits and pieces, and I'm like, can you just send an email afterwards that I can translate so I'm sure I got it? But yeah, so that's a more stressful one. I don't know if you'll deal with that, but good luck.
I think
You do.
just a big bucket with ice and Monster Energy drinks. And then turn on the plasma full volume and then go outside. How was Liar Group? Perfect. How are the kids? Some of them are still here.
They still have their fingers and toes. Last I checked.
Some of them are shaking.
That's good integration, though. At least we're making.
Yeah, I
that
appreciate this Conrad news, this Conrad update.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that's great. We've got a good mixed bag of news and integration check-ins. Thank you guys for your stories, and thank you all for listening and watching. Hi.
Hi.